4-H had sent out information to the schools saying that they have incubators that you can borrow, and they'll bring the eggs and help. They even had little curriculum kits. So a few years ago I did it. It was successful. We had 22 chickens out of 24 hatch, and the kids loved it. And since it's a farming community, some children know lots about chickens and even have their own pet chickens, and others don't have any pets or chickens, and they were very excited too. So I do it every couple of years. I don't do it every single year. And it's just a fun thing to do, and we can tie in science with it, tie in STEM activities with it. The eggs will take 21 days to hatch, which will be June 14th on a Tuesday. And I don't really know what time of day they'll hatch. We're open until 7 that day. So if they hatch early in the morning, that'll be great, because patrons and the children will come in and out of the library. If it happens later in the day, that still can work. Obviously, if it happens overnight, then I'll be back in the building, because I have to do a couple of things to take care of them and just make sure that the heating element on the top of the incubator doesn't burn them or anything. But if they do hatch late overnight, they'll stay in the incubator and they dry out and get fluffy. Today is day 10. Tomorrow, day 11, their eyes should open inside the egg and their little legs can move. A couple of days ago, all of their digits were developing, and they're also fluffy. They already have their down coming in. One thing the boys and girls in school learned, that the baby chicks have an egg tooth, and when they're ready to hatch on the 21st day, they'll rotate around and around in the egg, and they cut out a circle from the inside of the shell, and then they pop the circle out. It's almost like if you're ice fishing and you cut out the circle for the fish to come out. So they'll spin around and around in the egg with their egg tooth, and then they push through, and then they'll use their wings to push out the sides of the shell. And the reason why the temperature is so important is because the white part of the egg is very gluey. So if the humidity isn't correct, they can stick to the inside of the shell, and that can cause birth defects. And if the temperature isn't right, they can also be delayed in growth. So it's very important to keep the inside of the incubator moist. I added some water to it, and it evaporates, and the humidity helps. If the shell gets too hard, sometimes the baby chicks can't even burst out of the shell, and then they would pass away. So we have 12 chick eggs in the incubator, and I have 2 thermometers. I'm watching both thermometers just to make sure that they're accurate, and I keep placing them in different areas just to make sure that it's consistent, that it's at 99.5, which I have marked on the thermometer in red. The boys and girls notice that right away. These 2 eggs, I've candled them. I've gone into a dark room with a flashlight to look at them. I'm not convinced that I see anything developing in these 2. All the rest, though, the other 10, I do see a mass. I can see through the eggshell, and I do see a mass growing, and it's filling up quite a bit. And I pour water in the bottom of this. There are little troughs down on the bottom, and the heating element warms up the water, and that'll keep the shell from getting really, really hard, so that they can break out a little bit easier. So once they hatch, they'll stay in the incubator pretty much for about 24 hours. And they'll be wet and sticky, and the heating element will dry them off and fluff them up, and they'll get their bearings. They'll realize, hey, I can move around, and then they'll start moving around. And when that happens, I have to take them out, and I'll put them in their new house, which we'll put here on the floor. And I'll put pine shavings in it, the food, water. Eventually, a stick or a perch will go in there. And the last time we did it, I let them play with a ball. I had them in a popcorn bowl. We did a movie day, and I brought them their own popcorn, and they kind of pecked at it. Just things to stimulate them and get them hopping around and moving and excited. And the more exercise they get and the better they move, then they'll be, I know that I'm sending them off to farms in good shape. And actually, the last time we did it, we got calls from a few of the people that adopted them saying, I can't believe how sweet these chickens are. They would go follow them right into their house. They were that acclimated to people. They loved all the kids. It was pretty neat. It was pretty neat. And the last time it happened, I was really hoping we wouldn't have all yellow chicks. And I didn't know a whole lot about chickens before I did it the first time. So I thought, well, we'll probably get all yellow, fluffy, cute chicks. And then the more I read in some of the library books, I realized they're black, they're brown, they can have spots on them. They're so different. So when I had the 24 eggs sitting in here, I kept saying to the children in the morning when they were getting ready to hatch, won't this be neat if we have different colors? And we did. We ended up with yellow, black, brown. We even had some that had what looked like black eyeliner around their eyes. Gorgeous. They'll be here probably anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks. I may have them for up to 8 weeks. It could be 2 months. I have some families in town that are interested in them. So once they're eating well and their little wing feathers come in and they're starting to move about and be more active, and as they get bigger, if I have 10 out of the 12 that hatch, or all 12, it'll be a pretty full house of chickens. So it will really depend on how many chickens hatch, how long I am able to keep them, because you don't want them too crowded in the house. I'll have to clean every couple of hours. I don't want them to get sick or have spread disease or germs to each other, because they're very vulnerable once they hatch for the first week. So it will really depend on the number and how they're doing in the families in town, and a friend of mine that are interested in taking them, how long they'll stay here. They're actually pretty easy, and they're super friendly if they're handled a lot. When they're very young, they're very, very friendly, and they'll follow you around almost like a dog would. It doesn't take much to feed them. You can feed them arugula and berries, and their grain with antibiotics in it is what I'll be feeding them the first couple of weeks to make sure that they're nice and healthy for the first full week, and then their diet changes. They're not difficult. They're pretty easy. You can buy all different kinds of coops. You can make a coop. You can buy small ones that look like an igloo that are plastic that hold 2 chicks, so you could start off very small. As long as you have 2 females, you can collect the eggs every day and save them up, and at the end of the week make a big omelet. Use it to bake cakes. They're not difficult. They're really an easy pet. Probably the most difficult part is if you raise them and you have children in the family, and if you let them free range and roam around your yard. You have to be careful that hawks, birds, eagles, owls will attack them, cats. So that's probably the toughest part for parents is taking care of the chickens if they're free range and around the property. And once it starts to get dark out, the hens will go to their coop anyway. They know that it's time to go in and sleep for the night, and they like to be together. They don't like to be alone. They like to be in groups. So you could have 2, one wouldn't be ideal. 2, 3, 4, 5 is perfect. They're easy and it's fun, and the kids learn a lot from them, and they let you hold them. They're a lot of fun, actually, and they're not as messy as you think. If you keep up with the little nest, I mean, basically, if you have a chicken coop and all the hens are sitting in their nest overnight, in the morning you just kind of scoop out any dirty old hay, replace it, throw some feed down, and give them fresh raw water. That's one thing that I'll make sure of too once they hatch, is that I empty and clean their water bowl out several times a day, because they can make each other sick. So that will, the first 2 weeks will be really important for me to maintain a very clean cage. And we do, because the kids come in, they handle them. We use lots of hand sanitizer. I remind the children not to put their fingers near their mouth after they've handled a chicken. So we're very careful about that. And of course, everybody, right now we're just playing the waiting game, and everybody just comes in and stares at the shells and walks away, and they know that they're coming in a few weeks. An interesting fact is that chickens cannot fly. They do have wings, and they can jump a couple of feet and use their wings to escape from prey. That's why it'll be important for me to take a stick and put it in their house as they get bigger, and I'll help them with my hand, and their little wings will move, and I'll get them up on the perch so that they know how to escape from, if they were in a backyard and there was a dog or a coyote. If something was bothering them, they could hop up and fly a little bit, but they really can't fly. And they lay an egg a day. At about 6 months, the baby chicks will be able to lay their own eggs, all the females. And they lay an egg a day, and that lasts pretty consistently for about 3 years. And then after 3 years, they will produce an egg every couple of weeks, and then eventually they stop producing eggs altogether. So really, the first 3 years for chickens is when they're the most productive as far as egg laying. And of course, these eggs are not the same eggs as breakfast eggs. Breakfast eggs are unfertilized eggs. They would never be a chicken. Your scrambled egg would have never been a chicken. They have to be fertilized by the rooster. And if there are some roosters in this mix, that'll be the biggest issue. If I have a couple of roosters, not all families want roosters because they're noisy and loud, so then I would call back 4-H, and 4-H will take them, and they would go back on one of the larger farms, either in Plymouth, Halifax, so they will take them back. We have quite a few books about chickens. We have some picture books, silly books, recipe books that tie in with chickens. I pulled some of the adult nonfiction books that are show you how to make chicken coops. Some chicken coops are very fancy. They even have furniture in them and pictures. Some chicken coops even have chandeliers. Some people go way out for their chickens' homes. So we have at least 5 books about chicken coops, and I bought them because the ideas were amazing in all of them. They're very different. Keeping chickens, we have a book about keeping chickens, how to take care of them, how to handle them, what to watch out for if they get sick. We have actually very good chicken information. We have lots of books for the younger children that just talk about chickens on a farm and all the different breeds. Some chickens are yellow, some are fluffy, some have hair, feathers that hang over their over their eyes, so it looks like they have bangs. Some have very fancy feathers. Quite a few people in town have had show chickens. So the fancier chickens that are beautiful that they'll take to 4-H shows, fairs, agricultural fairs. And there are, in this area, naturally in New England, we have lots of contests and events that tie in around animal husbandry and breeding and chicks. And there are some really beautiful chickens out there. But mostly silly books. We have silly books, educational books. We have a lot.